Suzie LeBlanc, and it's my great pleasure to welcome you to Early Music Vancouver's Intimate Conversations. Today, my guest is Matthias Maute, a recorder and flute player, a conductor and composer, and the founder of Ensemble Caprice, and now also the director of Ensemble ArtChoral. Both ensembles will be part of the concert that we're presenting on March 24th at the Chan Center for the Performing Arts. And I hope we'll see many of you there. Matthias, thank you. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation and welcome to our Intimate Conversations.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
We're very, very much looking forward to your concert in Vancouver, which has a lot of my favorite pieces on it. Actually, one of the first pieces, The Eternal Source of Light Divine, this absolutely sumptuous duet. Is this your first time with the ensemble in Vancouver, Matthias? I don't think so.
We have performed in Vancouver also as part of Vancouver Early Music, and that is, I think, dates back quite a long time now. So if people think it's our first time in Vancouver, I would not be surprised.
Okay, well, we'll make sure that that's not your last time. You founded Ensemble Caprice 30 years ago already, just after winning the first prize at the Bruges International Music Competition, a very famous early music competition. And I think perhaps not long after you moved to Montreal. I'm wondering what drew you to Canada and what drew you to Montreal in particular.
Yeah, I mean, the timelines after the fact, everything seems like to be, it's such a long stretch of time from my personal point of view, but it's a drop in real history. So what happened is that, yeah, I won indeed that competition, but then still lived in Germany back then until 1999, when finally I moved to Montreal. And that was actually a totally personal matter, had nothing to do with music whatsoever. Since my future wife, Sophie Larivière, co-artistic director of Ensemble Caprice now, well, she was my the sunlight I was following, and so I ended up in Montreal. And so sometimes you have to have those lucky accidents, because it turned out to be a good choice, not only for personal reasons, but also because it was a very productive environment for running an arts organization and try to move, to develop a group like Ensemble Caprice that was a chamber music group at the beginning. Now it's a full-fledged orchestra, and we have our concert series is at Maison Symphonique. And so often now we team up with Ensemble ArtChoral, and that also has now a concert series at Maison Symphonique, independent one. So there's a lot of stuff going on a big scale. And the fact that it was possible to move it from small to that bigger platform is very satisfying, and it's great to see, because not only we can invite many musicians, singers, artists, but also we can tackle a completely different repertoire. So while in the past we had there were many trio sonatas and programs, now we are dealing with B minor mass, Mozart Requiem, and stuff like that, which, I mean, it's tough to say no to that as an artist.
No, I understand. Absolutely. Beautiful trajectory, actually. And when you think, you're mentioning Montreal series, but you also tour all over Europe. You've toured in Africa, in Asia, North America, of course. So quite a wonderful trajectory for the ensemble. So congratulations on that. When I read, I went to your website, of course, and I saw all these reviews, and the names, the adjectives that come back are imaginative, progressive, captivating. So these are words that I found not only in one, but they just keep coming back. And I'm wondering, what, in your opinion, makes your group so progressive or imaginative?
Well, it's always hard to speak about yourself because you can't really compare to what's going on somewhere else. I think in general the most important, like the first and foremost, not strength, but the effort of the ensemble is to reach out to the audience, and whatever that means, everyone does reach out to the audience. But for me personally, if I don't feel that the audience is as enthralled by the music as I am, it's an unsatisfying concert. So the idea is always like to throw everything you have to make something happen, an event that people will not forget, as as you don't want to forget a concert because something really wonderful has happened. So I think from that end, it's really something about reaching out to and finding ways to get people involved. And actually, at the concert in Vancouver, we have a very special feature, which I think expresses that to perfection. Because at some point, people will actually rehearse with us, the musicians on stage, before the concert. They will sing, perform with us during the concert, and it like once you have lived that experienced something like that kind of concert, it really changes everything, because music is all of a sudden not something that you witness from afar, but you're part of an experience that is changing our minds in that moment. I'm always impressed by the fact that the way you go into a concert and the way you emerge after the concert, something has happened. And you know it so well yourself. Something is going on. It's a magical moment, and you want to have this experience, and you want people being part of that experience. So the only things that come to my mind when I think about your question is something of that kind, that it's really something on a very personal level, and whatever it takes to get there, that is fine. And I think this is where imagination comes into play, because at some point you have to, even like you play around with the codex of behavior during the concert, like and like for instance in Montreal we did a personal opera Dido and Aeneas, and I had composed a prelude that had two different endings, and the audience had to choose which one they wanted to hear, and they got to hear only one, not two. So they have to vote, and that's part of a concert event. And I have to say, I have rarely seen an audience so heated, but like in a positive way, and engaged in trying to have make themselves heard, as opposed to listening to music. So stuff like that, it just creates a different kind of synergy between energy between stage and the hall.
Mm. You're saying very, very important things. I mean, obviously, this is why we do what we do, is to communicate to the audience. Even as a presenter, that's why we do it. But also you're talking about the importance of and the difference between listening to music and actually doing music and engaging in it, which is it's really something that I think everybody needs to try at least once in their lifetime. And this is now my moment to invite everybody to buy a ticket, because you get a chance to sing with you conducting from the podium and sing from the audience. And it's going to be the Hallelujah chorus. So I'm sure most people know it. So there will be music for you. So don't worry. So I'm really inviting everybody who's listening right now, if you haven't already, to buy a ticket and come and sing and come and experience not just the listening. You're so right, Matthias, to mention that. Another thing that when looking at your programming, what the progressive word to me was also that you often bring new music and juxtapose things, just like you mentioned, choosing the ending of the Dido and Aeneas. And I think there was also a moment, I don't know if you were involved in that, where there was the same thing done with Monteveri's Orfeo, which of course has two possible endings as well.
Right.
So okay, couple of things. You have a CD, which is excerpts of the Messiah, tied into our concert on the 24th of March. And you start the CD with a contemporary work, and you also end it with a contemporary work. And the last piece is one of your pieces, and we'll talk about the fact that you're also a composer in a moment. So you end the CD with this O Magnum Mysterium that you wrote. So it's obviously already innovative to have Messiah excerpts as such a well-known piece, but sandwich it between two modern works. Could you tell us a little bit about why you chose to do that, and also tell us about your piece on this very iconic Christmas text, O Magnum Mysterium?
Yeah. This is, I mean, such an interesting question. I hope people are really interested in that. To some degree, that touches like the very core of what I try to do as a musician and what I feel compelled to do. And one of the, as a classical musicians, we always deal with dead composers. And you know yourself how it is, like you perform the music and you feel, hey, I know that person because you have really studied the music, and there's so much like has been created in terms of emotion and understanding within your own mind. And at some point, it feels like the character of that composer really transpires with the music. And there are people like I would really love to have, like, you know, a drink in a bar like Telemann. I mean, how much fun would that to just meet that guy? And Handel, I mean, there are those funny stories that he didn't really treat his guests that well. Like he offered them very little in terms of eating while he went somewhere else during the same evening and had like a huge dinner. But still, he must have been like extremely interesting to meet and to talk to. So that, of course, is not possible. And for me as a composer, to some degree, performing is one way to sort of have that kind of dialogue across the times with those people, but also as a composer, because I never probably studied music at a conservatory, composition at a conservatory. But what I did, I studied the music of the grand masters of the past and tried to emulate their music by writing pieces in their own style. And that in itself, it's something like a dialogue, because you look at what they did, how they speak to you, and then you sort of speak back. And as a classical musician, when we perform, we have, of course, like in terms of linguistic, we would say we have a very high passive vocabulary because we understand the music, but we don't necessarily speak the music actively. And as a composer, so you sort of have to develop that side that you can actually reply to in maybe less complex or with a different cultural background like today as opposed to then. At the same time, you delve into the matter as much as possible, and you learn, of course, a lot about the music, about the composer, about yourself. And for me, that was sort of one way to just get to the core of the music. And to some degree, that informs the programming of Ensemble Caprice, because we try to sort of have that process as often as possible, also on stage or on CD. Because if the Messiah is embedded into two contemporary pieces, one by Jaap Nico Hamburger, the other one by myself, it means the light it's put into a different kind of room with a different kind of light than if you put it entirely in a historically correct way and so on. So I think that just features the one element that I think is just most important. Music, regardless of when it has been composed, once it's on stage and it's performed, it's music that happens right now in the moment. And whatever it takes to get there should be done. And composing is just one way, and you absolutely don't have to do it to get there. But for me personally, it was part of my own way, and I really enjoy integrating that into programs then.
Thank you so much. And yeah, and I mean, I think that makes a lot of sense. It's certainly a way of bringing the past to today as well. And so you went to the sort of university of composition that you created by yourself by studying the old masters. And
very beautiful way to put it.
Yeah, and I can't think of that's a wonderful way to integrate those two, being in love with the music of the past and living today. I just want to we'll listen to a little bit of that piece. We'll
Okay.
Now and come back to chat with you. So just a little excerpt of O Magnum Mysterium by Matthias Maute. So I want to just briefly touch on what you said earlier about writing in the old style. So I read that you were part of an organization called Vox Seculorum, which is not like other people who write music in the style of the masters of the past. Does that still exist, Matthias? Is that still going on?
I think they just put my name on the website. I'm not a member of that group. I have nothing to do with it. I just ended up being there. I think I have no idea what they are doing, so I'm not really part of it.
Yeah,
But
I've
I
never heard
realized
about it as well.
there are many people who did exactly what I did. I was surprised. I always thought I'm like, who would do crazy stuff like that? And I mean, is there really a need to do something that has been explored in the past? And I always told myself my justification was that I wrote pieces mostly like instrumentations that had been forgotten by the masters from the past. So you just write something for instruments that there's no repertoire for. Okay, so you do it yourself. Or like
Yes.
Vivaldi's opera Montezuma, 50% has been lost. So I recomposed in Vivaldi style the 50 lost percent of music. Or when there's a cycle of Vivaldi concertos, the Four Nations, there's no music at all. So I reconstructed, recomposed the music in Vivaldi style. And now you have new recorded concertos in that style that otherwise are missing. So that for myself, that is really an important point. And of course, development of your own skills. But I'm very little in touch with people who do stuff like that.
Okay. No, I was curious about that. But anyway, I think it's interesting. I'm sure that composing in those styles makes you a different performer of that music because you have to know it from a different part of your brain somehow.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely. Yeah.
I want to just talk about the concert on March
Yeah.
24th, program there. So tell us a little bit about the pieces, because I noticed, well, it's mostly Handel, but there's two other composers, there's Heineken and Telemann.
Yeah.
So what are they doing there, and why you chose to feature them?
So Telemann and Handel have a long or had a long-standing friendship, and for some reason it's not really well known. But for instance, both when they had reached a certain age, and Telemann, for instance, became a more and more enthusiastic gardener, which in like North June in Hamburg is not the most obvious thing to do. He complained bitterly about the situation during the winter and when he has to walk through the mud and everything. So that was really difficult, but he enjoyed gardening more and more. And Handel, not only they exchanged many letters, but he also from time to time sent him like as gift flower baskets and like exotic flowers that you would never ever get in Hamburg. And it's quite touching to see these like two gentlemen not only discussing matters of music and appreciating and respecting each other, but also like dealings with like gifting flowers. Who would have thought, you know? So that's in itself a wonderful gesture. And like Handel, he would subscribe to Telemann's Tafelmusik. And actually, he was like a musical thief. I think he took more like than 30 movements and motifs from the Tafelmusik and incorporated them into his own music. By that, not actually stealing Telemann's music, but by paying respect to a great friend, a great colleague that he thought is worthy to show his music in in Handel's own music. And it was actually a sign of respect to say, okay, you did that with the music, I do something else with the same motif that you came up with. And isn't all great and wonderful? So that was sort of a very close connection. With Heineken, it's a bit different because there's no direct connection between the composers. However, the Magnificat, it's Heineken's very last piece that he composed in 1729. It was actually composed a couple of months before he passed away. And so he was sick, but his piece has sort of that Handelian operatic flavor that really lends itself to putting it next to Handel's pieces, not only because of that operatic character, but also because of the quality of the music that can easily stand its own next to Handel's masterpieces.
Gosh, and we don't hear Heineken very often at all. So
No,
thank you
that's true. Yeah.
for bringing him to the stage. So just tell us a little bit about how many people are on stage and the composition, the instruments that are there.
So we have a total of 19 musicians and singers, so 8 singers, 4 soloists, and 4 piano singers. But when it comes to the choruses, all the 8 singers will sing together. So that's basically what like for instance what Bach would do in cantata performances in his own day. And then we have a mixed bag of like strings, of course, winds, and we have two trumpets and timpani for just one piece. But it's the piece, the one of the most famous pieces ever composed, the Hallelujah, and that's also an important reason why the Hallelujah will be performed twice that evening. Once with the tutti in the entire hall, but then also as a final piece of the anthem for the foundling hospital.
Okay, so Messiah lovers out there, you get to hear the Hallelujah chorus twice. You get to sing it once. That's extremely exciting. And there's also opera arias in this program. So that's, you know, a very varied program, actually. And some in English, some in Italian. It's incredibly broad range of a sort of a display of Handel, really. And
yeah, and when you think about like there's a Matthias opera with three different languages
yes.
used in one single opera, so it was sort of less clear cut back in the day than it's today. And when Miss the just as it's interesting to see that part of the fact that Handel's Messiah was not right away a big success in London was because it was performed at a theater and not at a church. People were sort of didn't really know what exactly is going on, but in Handel's mind it all ended up being, hey, it's music, and in both either secular or sacred music, the operatic gestures are the same. So it's very interesting to have actually both sides put to the table and to realize, hey, we are all part of one world.
It's all beautiful rhetoric. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Wonderful. Listen, thank you so much. We are really looking forward to this performance, and I hope that everybody will come, and especially to sing as well. Thank you, Matthias, for bringing Ensemble Caprice and Ensemble Art Vocal to Vancouver, and we look forward to welcoming you all in March. Thank you.
thank you so much.
Bye-bye.